The cornerstone of any strategy is not just understanding where you want to be, but also where you are now. And getting social media right for your organization is no different, which is why I'm so pleased to be joined by social media consultant Fiona O'Donoghue as we discuss how brands can audit their social media and use that as a springboard into an effective social media strategy. Fiona, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here. My
How's
first
things-
podcast.
Oh, is it? Brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very excited to be here. My first podcast.
Brilliant. Have you on. Thank you. Just to start things off, can you give a bit of background to your career and how you ended up working as an independent consultant?
Yeah. So I have been an independent consultant for nearly 3 years now. And prior to that, I was always agency side. So started off way back when in PR, employer stunts and things like driving tanks down the streets for EA games and bulletin the world's biggest sheriff for links. And then naturally, just the way that, the likes of Facebook and Twitter had been around, a couple of years before that, but around about 2010, 2012, social media really started to be a game changer for brands. And that's when we started to see the kind of social media marketing that we see now. And naturally, throughout my agency career, social media, PR, digital, SEO started to sort of play into the roles that I was in and leading different account teams across a variety of consumer and B2B brands. And fast forward to my last permanent role was head of social. And I basically went off on my second maternity leave at the very end of 2019. Fast forward to 2020. We know what happened in 2020. And I ended up not returning to agency life, essentially because we were in the middle of a pandemic, 2 little ones at home, but more so I just, the return to sort of full-time agency life. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do the great job that I was doing before. I didn't want that. And also during the pandemic, obviously so many businesses really struggled, and regardless, there was certainly a lot of businesses on like local Facebook groups, on their own social media, just saying, I don't know how to make this shift from, as a local retailer, bricks and mortar, or even if they were online before, they were just really struggling with how to use social media effectively and navigate it all. So during 2020, whilst I was on maternity leave still, I made a decision to leave full-time agency life. And I initially set up as attention seeker to help local businesses get attention. So that was my, that is still is my consultancy name. Marketing is all about getting brands' attention. So yeah, I get my clients' attention in a nutshell.
It's a great name.
It does. It gets people talking. It's quite interesting when people say, I introduce myself as Fiona. I'm an attention seeker, and they go, oh, it's a conversation starter at least. But yeah, so I started off nearly 3 years ago, mostly focusing on local SMEs, which is great and helps a few local clients there. So I think really helped them sort of navigate, as I said, that way from what it was before and the proliferation of the way people use social media in that time, which is fantastic. But now I've sort of gone, I do a mix of local SMEs, but I still go back to my sort of agency roots as well. So it's really lovely at the moment. I work with both in-house marketing teams and different brands of all shapes and sizes, UK, B2B, local ones, and still work with agencies as a consultant as well. So whether that's with their clients or their own processes and building their own teams out and new business development, etc. So kind of still keeping a bit in my old agency life, but helping local businesses and in-house marketing teams as well. So,
Is there anything you miss about agency life?
I think, yeah, you've got to be a certain amount of thing to be in agency life, and I think like that buzz is a killer sometimes, but it's also fantastic. Just be around many different personalities, and I think that support as well. What I love is, and certainly one of the agencies, all the agencies I've worked at have been fantastic, but certainly there was an agency where there was all digital, SEO, PPC, content creation, paid social, organic, PR, digital PR, and everybody was an expert in something. So if you weren't sure, and just leaning on other people for that advice and just the continuous learning, whereas the onus is on me now, and I love that. I've always loved learning. I'm always up to date with different newsletters and podcasts and, keeping on top of new things to make sure that I keep, even though I'm a social media consultant, I keep abreast of all aspects of marketing and what's important as well. But I think the onus as a consultant is to build up your own network of people that you rely on as that kind of soundboards or asking questions and that. But yeah, and Friday drinks as well.
Yes,
Slap him with that.
very much part of the company.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Just Friday, surely.
Oh, well, yeah, sometimes on Monday.
But
Yeah.
no, totally take on board your point about keeping your network as an independent freelancer, because
Yeah.
I try and do that. I'm a member of a group of freelancers called the Digital Marketing Union, and it's brilliant for just picking up on new ideas. If you need some skills that you just don't have, or you just need some additional capacity, you can find really great people in there.
Exactly.
It's also a great place I've found if we've all had bad days, or where a client has done something really frustrating.
Just
politely.
sanity check.
Am I going wrong?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, even there's a local Facebook, not a local Facebook group, a Facebook group with Matt Nabarra, who is, for me, just one of the best social media gurus out there. And years ago, he started a Facebook group, and it's grown massively again, post-pandemic. I was there in my last agency role because it was such a great, it was mostly sort of in-house marketeer, like social media marketeers, agencies, just checking things, even if it was technical, the amount of technical things that Meta throws at you when you're setting business pages and ads and things. And so it initially started for me as that, but now, it is that case of sanity checking some things with maybe client situations or technical problems as well. And so it's good to have the online and offline network.
I find it interesting as well. You mentioned that some of your clients are also agencies as well. And that's been my experience. I've provided some support to agencies. I know a lot of other agencies do rely on external support from freelancers that they can wrap up whenever they need it. And I suppose in principle, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But of course, from the client's perspective, they're paying a premium for a service on top of what they could have got if they'd just gone direct to the right person in the first place. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, at the moment, I'm almost, I've stepped into pretty much the lead project in lieu of team members not being there now. And I'm there as Fiona at detention-seeker.com, but I'm on behalf of the agency. And, you just roll with it. But it is, there's a couple of agency clients I've got where they know that I'm the freelancer. I'm attention seeker and part of the agency in that project.
Full swap between the two.
Yeah.
It's part of the game, hey?
Yeah, exactly. It's enjoyable.
Well, look, thank you for that introduction. Really, the theme for the episode is around how you go about auditing your social media activity, and then using that to form your strategy.
Yeah.
Speaking personally, I've never conducted an audit for social media. I wouldn't even know where to start. So walk me through the steps, please.
Yeah, gosh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, the size of the audit, of course, depends on the brand, the client, how many social media profiles they're on, where they want to be, etc. How present they've been on social media. Have they set up a Facebook page back in 2010 and nobody knows who owned it anymore, and it's all set up properly all the way through to, your huge global EMEA brands that have multiple platforms, or just a local business. The size of the audit will completely vary, but it's such a great exercise to do. If for any brand of any size that's on social media and has been present for at least a year, it's a good time to, you should be checking in on essentially what's working and what's not working, and where you want to be. But the process I start off with, and there's a few different steps and a few layers to an audit. But the first step for me is always quite basic, but really, really important. It's a channel hygiene or channel housekeeping setup. So it's a case of looking at all of the social media profiles that the brand is present on. If they have multiple profiles on the same platform, so like a UK Instagram, a France Instagram, or if they're just 4 or 5 different platforms. So where are all the platforms? Are they all consistent? Have they got the same handle? Have they got the same profile description? Is it the same brand logo, the same banner? And things that, a lot of marketing teams and agencies, obviously you focus on the day-to-day posts and the content strategy. But if you think of it, and the profiles sometimes get left behind a little bit or not updated, and sometimes on Instagram, especially, people just pop Instagram story highlights in there. They're 3 years old, and just having a really good first step is to bit housekeeping. And does everything look the same? Is it from the same tone of voice? Is it saying the same thing? Do your links work? Do they go up to the right landing pages on the website that you want it to? Is the contact information up to date? Like all your essentials, like your social media profile, is like your shop window. If just because you know what the brand should say, what you offer, whether it's a product or a service, if you think about it from a completely new your target audience's point of view, it's somebody who's never discovered your brand before, or maybe doesn't know too much about it, and they discover you on whichever social media platform, they go to your profile. Does it say things that it should say? Does it entice them into your shop window to explore more and find out more about you? Or is it a nice user journey? So if they find you on TikTok or Instagram, is it nice and easy for them to go off to buy a product or to find out more about your services? So number one for me is that sort of channel hygiene, housekeeping step, and just getting all your ducks in a row, and making sure that everything's all nice and consistent and a nice, easy user journey, and vice versa with your website as well. Have you got the right social media icons on the website? Are they in the header or the footer? Hidden away somewhere that they should be at the header or the footer, and it should just be one really nice journey. And your social media platform should fit into a wider marketing strategy. So that's step number one. And then we look at the performance of each channel as well. So say there are multiple platforms. I tend to use good old spreadsheets and look at a channel hygiene or a housekeeping spreadsheet that says, LinkedIn profile handle, how many followers are there at the moment, average reach, what's the total reach in the period of the audit that we're looking at, which tends to be a year, sometimes 6 months, but we tend to look at a year's worth of data for any social media audit. So yeah, all of the sort of key data, the average engagement rates and things. So look at all the channel performance, and then just look at the multiple platform social media audit. You can really get a good gauge at that point of what platforms are working really well. And then you can sort of look at taking X or Twitter into account, for example. Who knows what that platform is going to be in a year? Say if you compare, if they were quite active on Twitter or X, everyone would call it. Say they were really active on there a year ago. Right now, I'd probably take a guess that your reach and engagement on that platform is probably not what it used to be. And so do you want them to look at a new platform at that stage, a new channel? Threads is kind of, they want to try and attract that audience at the moment. So it's a case of looking at, are you in the right, how are your channels working for you? I mean, there's no point in being on every single platform if that's not where your target audience is. And by looking at the performance of every channel that a brand is on, then you can decide on, if you get a really good idea of what's working and what's not working, which is the point of the audit. And then you can start to look at further down in the audit, which is more about the audience and your target audience. Where should you be? If a particular platform was part of your social media strategy, if you already had a social media strategy at that point, is it time to start to maybe wind that platform down and put resource into another platform that you want to test or seems to be doing better for you, or you maybe want to downweight resources that were going into a platform and upweight another platform, for example. So yeah, but it's the first two tips: channel hygiene, housekeeping, channel performance. Just get a really good lie of the land is the first couple of steps to take in an audit.
I've got a question for you, because something I've always struggled to wrap my head around when conducting an audit or thinking about an audit is actually that whether starting off with the audits, kind of putting the cart before the horse. Because I suppose depending on the business, the social media channels might serve different kind of purposes. I could well assume that for a FMCG brand, there will be some social media activity that directly, and you can attribute it directly to that, generated some sales because people clicked through and whatever, they bought a pair of shoes. There will be other that maybe B2B brands or something that's maybe more considered, where
Yeah.
it's probably unlikely that you can tie back a single bit of social media activity to any commercial outcome, but it's still valuable for building awareness, building brand affinity, whatever it is. But how do you approach it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the important part about having a social media strategy and those objectives and understanding your typical marketing funnel. Every single piece of content, every single post should do a job, whether it's that top line awareness piece and tapping into getting the attention of the target audience through to engaging them and that community building element of it and having conversations on posts, making it shareable. And that's the kind of metrics that you want to be looking at. When we talk about average engagement rate and how channel performance is, the most important thing, it's great to have likes on a post. What you really, really want to be having is comments. So to your B2B point, for example, on even LinkedIn or any platforms, I say LinkedIn, but any platform, and you can on the surface of it have a 34% average engagement rate. Actually, say that's a promotional post, then and all of the internal team were liking that post, and that post engagement rate on the surface at 30% it's fantastic, but actually it was liked by the internal team.
Mm.
So actually what you would be looking at is the other types of posts that have had a great engagement, but from a comments perspective, shares is really interesting at the moment as well, because there's definitely an increase in what we call dark social. The
Mm.
term's been around for years and years and years, but it's really, I think, prominent at the moment. People are so hyper aware, I think, of being sold to in social, but there's certain content that we all share, whether it's in a WhatsApp group, in a private DM or an email Slack, etc. And from a social media marketer perspective, you can't see where that post went. You should have UTM tracking parameters on it, etc. If it is an important campaign, but essentially it is really hard to track certain behaviors and purchase points, but it all builds towards the bigger picture. So as long as you're reaching the right people and reaching new people, you're getting that kind of quality engagement, comments, the shares, and that just harks back that people are aware of the brand, they're engaging with it. And then you can add on layers at the bottom of your typical marketing funnel of going, okay, what's the conversion stuff? Like, what do we really be tracking? And is it all set up properly from a Google Analytics perspective? And all of that really important stuff, and lead generation, conversions, etc. But I think the biggest thing with social, and it's much better these days. I mean, I remember 10 years ago having conversations about just community engagement and all like that kind of stuff, and clients saying, yes, but where's the sales? And it's like, well, that's it. All builds towards it. It's really important. And social media, this is what I love about it. It's that one-to-one connection with your customer. If you literally have your customer right in front of you on their phone, most likely, and you're talking to them and you're having a conversation with them, or you're engaging them in some way. And whether they're ready to purchase or not at that point, you've got inside their minds, and
Mm.
it's that opportunity to build that
Yeah.
rapport, to get closer.
Yeah. I had an old boss who used to phrase it in the way that, what particular advert made you buy that car?
Yeah.
And the truth is, it's none of them and all of them. It's
Yeah.
it's the sum total of everything you've seen in your lifetime that made you choose that particular brand
Absolutely.
and make a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm really pleased you mentioned dark social, because it's a thing that I have struggled with with my attribution, I suppose, measurement, and I know a lot of my clients do as well.
Yeah.
There's a guy that I listen to a lot of his content on podcasts, a guy called Chris Walker.
Mhm.
His background is a marketing business consultant. And he's a huge advocate for just asking at the point of conversion, how did you hear about us?
Yeah.
And it always being a free text field, because if you start providing a pick list, people just randomly click. You're guiding the conversation. And I've implemented that for a couple of clients, and it's been really eye-opening to just see, particularly when you compare it against, say, HubSpot's data, because
Yeah.
HubSpot can only track so much. And basically HubSpot will say,
Mhm.
everything's come through the website.
Yeah.
In a way, it's true. Everything
Yeah.
has come through the website, but it's exactly the same as 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago. Everything would have come through the telephone. The telephone's not generating any demand. It's just
Yeah.
the medium that you're receiving that inquiry in the first place. And some of the insights have been absolutely fascinating, stuff that we would never even have known about existing.
Yeah.
They're what's driving more of the conversation, more inquiries that,
Yeah.
had we not asked that question, we would probably have gone, oh, well, that didn't work. Let's stop that and put the money into Google Ads or something.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And even word of mouth as well. So I've got, a couple of my agency clients where I'm helping them with their own social media as well, because typically, I think in any industry, but typically as marketers, our own marketing is terrible. So what all the agencies have been at, God, we have to do our own social media, and me as a consultant, please don't look at my social media. It's terrible. But a couple of the agencies I'm working with to help them with their, to practice what they preach, I suppose, they've then said that they've been at networking events and said, oh, I saw this LinkedIn, and people are watching, every single post matters. Just because somebody's not converted or got in touch with you at that particular point, when they're ready, you're on their minds. And obviously the way that the algorithms work as well is that if somebody has spent a bit of time on a post or they've engaged with it in some sort of way, the next post will be shown to them in their feed, etc. So it all is so important. I always say to my clients, don't be disheartened if you don't get that immediate sale, if you don't get that immediate engagement rate. It all builds up, and it's all important. And yeah, I think that when you look at a social media audit, it's identifying what is doing that, and what, and keeping in mind that awareness, engagement, conversion journey, and yeah, even just the sort of housekeeping element of it, just making that as easy and simple as possible for your ideal customers or clients. Um, and that's where an audit is really important, identifying what attributes to each stage of that user journey.
Yeah, yeah. And one of the things I've discovered, certainly for one of my clients, when asking that attribution question on the website inquiry form,
Yeah.
is the importance for that particular client of one of their employees, in fact, it's one of the founders, their social media presence, not
Yeah.
just the brand social media presence. So as part of an audit, might
Yeah.
you also include sort of key employees, key people for audit as well?
Definitely. Yeah. It's really, really important. I think obviously LinkedIn really stands out as a prominent platform for that. I mean, there's been much more talk and mention about personal branding in the last couple of years. And I think more and more people are starting to understand that you do personally have to have, especially if you're in a leadership team of any business, that their social media has to be supportive of what's happening with the company, sharing. And it comes into, obviously, if thought leadership is a key objective as well. And again, it's a bit of a buzzword, thought leadership, I think. But being able to talk, with an opinion about your industry, your client's industry, even things like the spring budget last week, if there was something relevant to your industry, to your clients about that, whilst the company, if it's relevant, should be sharing guidance and advice, or some sort of value adds, taking that as an example. The leadership team, the CEO, the MD, if ever, anybody at any level, actually, new graduates coming in, it all builds up to that brand's reputation, essentially, and casting that net a little bit wider. So definitely when we're doing audit, obviously start with the brand's page, but then look at the employees and the team as well. So did even mention that they work with the brand, it's just the really simple things like that. But what I tend to do as well is give a little bit of a sort of cheat sheet or a toolkit for the employees as well, to say, it's their personal profile, so you can't tell them what to say, but a bit of guidance on how to optimize their profiles, basically, so that it's really clear again what they do, who they do it for, how they do it, if there's any links that they can add to their website and their profiles, then just do that. And also a bit of guidance on, again, so any sort of social media profile that they're on, but predominantly LinkedIn as well, at how to use that, and just that if they can, not just share a post or like a post from the company, but to share it with their own opinion as well. That's the most important thing. And just set some guidelines for employees to help with that as well. So it's definitely really important. And it's almost like going back to my PR days as well, where, we'd have interviews with the CEOs and the MDs, directors, etc., because it's that sort of earned media coverage and that thought leadership. And it's no different when it comes to social media. It's really important.
Are any of the metrics that you might be measuring when looking at a person, the private social media profile, different to how you'd be analyzing a corporate profile?
Well, you get a little bit, you can't go into a personal profile to see reach and engagement and things. So if they have, for example, a creator mode turned on their profiles, then they should be able to see reach. And there's with LinkedIn again, particularly, there's a few tools that they can use to measure their client, essentially, and they can look at reach and engagement and things like that. But it's harder to sort of say, oh, you're getting a great engagement. It's more sort of surface level, and that's where audits can sometimes be quite manual, where you'll go through personal profiles or pester profiles as well, if you don't have access to third-party social media tools. But the metrics, we don't tend, unless it's a CEO and it's a really big campaign where we're doing thought leadership, we don't tend to set personal KPIs for personal profiles. And likewise as well, we're not going to pull up an employee and say, you've not shared anybody's post. Their personal profiles, they've got to do what they're comfortable with. But what we can do is just say, we'll equip them with as much as we possibly can to make them feel comfortable and happy to engage on social on behalf of the company.
I think providing that security and building a culture where people feel empowered to do that and know the guidelines comfortably enough that they can feel secure that they're not going to be stepping out of line and get in trouble for doing so is so important, because otherwise it is just so easy just to go, yeah, I like it, that's job done, but it's not really adding anything to the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned maybe looking at competitor profiles as well. Is there anything that you'd be trying to analyze among your competitors?
Inspiration almost is, obviously you want to do a direct comparison. So there's some social media tools you can use with an audit. And if you have access to the likes of Sprout or Agora Pulse, which are brilliant tools and ones that I would recommend, but they're not clearly cheap. So, you can only do what you've got. So sometimes some brands only have native analytics and they don't necessarily allow you to track competitors. So if you don't have access to a tool that maybe is used for social media auditing, reporting and listening, etc., then your native analytics won't show you things like reach and engagement and post performance for competitors, but you can still be tracking them. And that's where monthly reports should come in as well, where we can look back at, what were our competitors doing this month? What do we think they were doing really well? On the surface of it, has something got comments, shares, these things you can see from an external perspective without any other tracking tools, any tracking tools in place. But yeah, competitors are definitely really important. And number one is a direct competitor in anything, any analysis, or track up to 3 direct competitors, if possible, and get an idea of what's working for them or what's not working for them, because that should then inform your social media strategy. But I think as sort of the competitor part of an audit as well, I also look at non-direct competitors, sometimes brands that are completely not even in the same industry. But for example, if there is an FMCG brand and their commerce features are not set up properly, or they could be doing better to make it easier for people to go and find out more to buy their products, then I can go and look at a fashion retailer, for example, that is doing really well and say, this is fantastic. This is a brand that's got their commerce and all their shopping features set up perfectly. And even though they're not a direct competitor and they're not even in the same industry, it's a really good example of how we should be approaching that. Or things like community engagement. If there's a brand that's lacking in getting comments and things, having an example of a great brand of any size, any industry that does really good at that, and it's a bit of inspiration. And obviously still relevant to the brand that we're auditing, but I think it's really good as well to look at inspiration. When you look at the audit and you can see the areas that are lacking, whichever they might be, whether you're not reaching, engaging, converting, then you can go and look at, okay, well, what are your competitors doing? How are they doing it? What's doing really well that we should take on board and learn from? And also what other brands world that are doing really well that we should take inspiration from. And obviously not to carbon copy, nothing like that whatsoever. But it's just really, there's so many different social media platforms, features that you can use. And sometimes it's looking at what is working really well for other brands that we should take on board to keep improving, because that is the purpose of the audit, is to improve and evolve.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And when you talk about what are other brands doing really well that maybe we can replicate for our own brand,
Yeah.
Are there things that you've noticed that brands are doing brilliantly that's helping them really stand out, or maybe the opposite of what, in your experience, are a lot of brands getting wrong with their socials?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think for me, the number one thing with social is you have to listen and show it's that social element of it. It's so simple because social media but a lot of brands don't do that. They sort of use it as a broadcast platform rather than a conversation platform. And you have to listen to what your audience are interested in or talking about at that moment and be part of that. And I think there's still so many brands where you see them putting out fantastic content, or they're maybe even using influencers and content creators to create that content. And then the community are talking amongst themselves and asking things like, oh, I can't find this available anywhere. Where can I find it? And somebody else has answered that question for them. And I see that continually where I'm like, difficult, with it. Again, it depends on the brand and the size, the resources available. It is, social media is a multi-spectrum job. There's so many different layers to it. And the community engagement, it can be time consuming depending on how much you're putting out there and how many platforms you're on. But even at a very basic level of having sort of guidelines in place of community management and saying we're going to check in on our platforms at 10 a.m., 4 p.m. and we'll have a roster, of people who can do that. And that's just really important to have that. And obviously some brands are lucky enough to have a full dedicated customer service team. Being Scottish and potentially a little bit biased, but there's a fantastic brand on Twitter, it's ScotRail. So there's the train service in Scotland. Their customer service is fantastic and they tap into trends and things that people are talking about. And they've got a really good brand voice and it's funny as well. You wouldn't expect a train company to be funny, but actually if you go onto the ScotRail platforms, even just and they sign it off with their individual names. So there's a human behind
Yeah,
the
that's
tweet or the response. So people know that it's that Adam was responding, etc. And there's a person there, and that's so important to you have your brand and your tone of voice, and you have a guideline. Are you funny? Are you serious? These kind of things are really important to have. But just showing there's a human there listening, responding to questions like, "Where can I find this in stock?" Or "Can you do this in a different color?" Whether or not the brand actually takes that on board and they can sort of attribute that and say, "Okay, actually, we can make this a different color because there's enough of you asking for it." Or McDonald's is a company I keep referring to lately, just because in January, I think it was, they relaunched their breakfast wrap. I had no idea about this, but then I loved it. In all their the TV advertising and their display, we had whatever it was, 24,000 DMs about the breakfast wrap, and they quantified how much social media comments and messages they'd had about this breakfast wrap. And they said, it's that kind of like you asked, we listened type thing. And on any level, whether it's just simply responding to questions, are you open or is it available? Just that kind of really community management is just responding to what's the comments that are there, or whether I'm taking that through and listing it and informing NPD, wider marketing strategies. I think some brands are doing that fantastically. And for me, they really stand out because it shows that they're using social media properly and keep that human element. They're not just using it as a broadcast channel.
the
So
clue's in the name, isn't it? Social media.
yeah,
It should be two-way.
yeah, exactly. It has to be, and that's a great thing. I mean, and yeah, I think you can have conversations on your posts and have that rapport with your customers and clients there. That's fantastic. And whether or not that leads to a sale or conversion at the end, of course it will, or it might lead to a word of mouth recommendation. You never know what that's going to do, but you've got that person's attention, you've got that engagement. So yeah, it's important and often not undervalued, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to start bringing this to a close. Before I let you go, just one final question on the audits. How frequently would you recommend a brand conducts a social media audit?
Yeah, and I think annually is a good set. I mean, obviously, if you are a huge global brand, you might keep Coca-Colas of the world, then you're potentially looking at biannually, because there will be so much, and social media moves so fast, so many different new features. I mean, we're in March now, and things have changed drastically just in the last couple of months, even. So, but generally, annual look at it would be the most, at the very bare minimum, once a year. And that can be at any time. Obviously, if you're doing your planning for the following year, or the following financial year, or if you are just finally in a place ready to say we've been on social media for a little while and actually what's working, what's not. Certainly taking a look at the previous year's data and performance and insights is a good place to start. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Something I'm asking every guest is for a book recommendation that they feel everyone in marketing should read.
Yeah. I love Dave Trott. So read all of his books, but the one that he published, I think like 10 years ago, Predatory Thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So I still refer back to it because it's just full of short stories, but every single one just makes you think a little bit differently. And it's about challenges. It's just putting your mind in a different place. And sometimes, especially at the moment, obviously I mostly work from home or with clients, and it especially like I wake up at like 5, 6 a.m., get some work done, take the kids to school, job done, go get the kids in school. A little anecdote, a little short story now and again, which really help on a bit, it's inspirational, and it's just kind of, especially if you're having a bit of a challenge with a pitch or a brief or, a new strategy, I find it really helpful to look at sort of different ways to do challenges. But Dave Trott is for me just gold for anybody in marketing has to read. Even just follow him on Twitter or his blog. Brilliant, really
totally
good.
agree. I think I've read all of his books. They are all thoroughly enjoyable. Like you said,
So
they're
good.
an easy read because you can just pick it up, read 1 or 2 chapters in the space of a few minutes, but they're always thought-provoking. They're always interesting. Takes you out of just your mindset for that moment.
Yeah.
Causes you to think about something slightly different. And same for the content he puts out on Twitter and on his blog as well.
So good.
Totally second that recommendation.
Yeah.
Fiona, thank you so much for your time. You've been a wonderful
Thank
guest,
you.
and thank you for sharing all your social media experience around auditing. How can people connect with you after the show?
Yeah, so my website is attention-seeker.com, and there you'll find I am on all of the social media profiles.
I hope.
But as I said earlier, I don't know if I practice what I preach. I do it all for my clients. So their social media and marketing is fantastic. Mine's could be better, but I am active on all the social media platforms. And if you want to find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Thread,
You'll find it.
you'll find me on attention-seeker.com. Yep.
Brilliant. I'll include the links in the show notes. Fiona, thank you so much. Great to
Thank you very
everyone.
much. Thank you.